So, hey, you look great. You look great.
Man, I appreciate it. Look back at you. Look at it. Except, you know what? All of a sudden, we got these funny looking colors on our hair, man. I don't know what that is, you know?
So, hey, I got a call a few months ago about a soldier that was sick, and it brought me right back to Maggot again. You know, I'd started doing these originally when Maggot suddenly didn't have a memory, and so we're back at it, right? But what I realize now is I have so many people that I know that if they were to pass away, I'm thinking, you know, why didn't we just get together one more time and tell a story or two? You know, why didn't we do this while we were healthy and we could, especially when we have so much technology to do that today, you know? And so I call this Heroes I Know. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it on a little thumb drive, and you're gonna send me as many pictures as you can, and I'm gonna put them in a slideshow. And at some point during this interview, you're gonna salute the camera and you're gonna report, and then you're gonna sign out. And then look, that video is gonna be used at your memorial service one day. And this is a moment in time where you and I can sit down and just reminisce a little bit about our time in service that is past now. And we can think of in a different way, maybe, than we could while it was happening, you know? So, so tell me about how you end up joining the Army. Tell me about that.
Well, you know, we moved down here to Tennessee between my sophomore and junior years in high school. And so, you know, of course, junior, senior year, you start getting a bunch of phone calls for recruiters, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, right? What a great place to start. Anyway, you know, I never had any intention of ever joining any branch of military growing up, you know? And so, you know, you get these phone calls, you don't know what to do, you know. Got into my senior year. A lot of folks here were going to work at some of the local factories. Something I guess in New Jersey, I just never paid attention to, right? I was just a little too young for figuring out what people were doing out of high school. And it was a big school in New Jersey. So it wasn't like I knew a lot of people, you know, at that point in their high school. So anyway, you know, it was like, okay, they're either going to college or they're going to work at a factory. And I just didn't see myself doing either one of those. It wasn't real mature, you know. I mean, I was just a, you know, typical, you know, 17, 18-year-old kid. And so just didn't see the factory thing going. My aunt was talking to me about college, and she says, well, what do you want to do? I said, you know, I want to play drums in a rock and roll band, man. I want to be like John Bonham. That's all I cared about. John Bonham, best rock and roll drummer there ever was, hands down. Don't care what anybody says. So anyway, she gets me in a car, and we go up the road here to Tennessee Tech, you know, about 30 miles away. And so they start me, you know, she's talking to me about a music degree, you know, what you got to do to get a music degree. So, you know, I'm a high school teenager, man. I'm not even worried about a degree. I just wanted, how am I going to get to play drums in a rock and roll band like John Bonham? So anyway, you know, they give you like the courses. Here's what you got to take. And of course you got to take like English and music appreciation and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. Where's the class that says you sit behind drums and learn how to play like, you know, like John Bonham? So I real quick figured out, well, that's not what I wanted to do. And of course, you know, all the recruiters are calling. And I originally had intended I was going to join the Marines. You know, Marine recruiter, you know, came to the high school, talked to me a couple of times at the house, talked to my parents. And when it came down to go to MEPS, I went to MEPS, go to the Marines. And of course, you know, they cracked me. I'd probably never do well in an interrogation room because, you know, they gave me the whole, you know, if you ever smoke dope, we'll find out, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, I got nervous. Said, well, yeah, I did. I smoked dope a few times, been a few years. So, you know, the Marines weren't weren't taking like, you know, they wouldn't give you a guaranteed contract, right? Yeah. So I figured out later what it was. Basically, it's like I stood for a DA photo, right? Had to stand there, high school kid standing up, send in my packet. I get endorsed by the recruiter and everything. And it comes back, said, listen, man, they won't, you know, you got a 3-year contract, 0311, which means infantry, no guarantees. Before it was like, hey, you can have this, that, or the other. Well, the Army had been calling me all the time saying, hey, look, we don't care if you smoke dope. You know, we can get you in here and, you know, we can give you a bonus, whatever you want to do. So there was a guy that lived up the road from me who was going through Marine Corps ROTC. And he says, well, you know, he said, if I couldn't be in the Marines, I'd be, you know, in the Army, in the Airborne, be a paratrooper. Well, that stuck in my head. So I go into the MEPS. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. What do you got that can, you know, make you jump out of planes, man? I want to jump out of planes. And so they ran down the things. It was like 11 bang, you know, which I think gave me $1,000 bonus, you know, and wherever the Army wants you to go. To be an engineer was a $2,500 bonus. And yeah, I think you went to Germany, you was guaranteed a position in, you know, slot in Germany. All of them needs with the jump school en route. But, you know, after jump school, this was it. And then he says, hey, we got this other thing, man. We got this man pads crewman. It's a $5,000 bonus, and you get a guaranteed assignment to the 82nd Airborne Division. So really, I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, because I really like a job, this for everybody get a kick out of. I really like a job that would kind of keep me inside when it's cold and give me in the AC when it's hot. I said, hey, man pads crewman will do it for you. Right? Damn used car salesman. But so anyway, I said, hey, okay, sign me up. And you know, the rest, as they say, is history, man. So that was it. From there, I was gone, you know. So
Was there a time in training, like basic training or AIT or anything where something was tough for you, or maybe something came easy for you? Tell me about those times.
PT was tough. I was kind of a pudgy kid as a senior. You know, I got pudgy in my early teens, kind of slimmed out as I got into high school. And in my senior year, you know, I was wrapped up with a girlfriend. You know, that's the way I guess it kind of goes sometimes. So I didn't do a lot. I didn't play football, which I only played a little bit of football anyway. I played, I famously tell folks when I played football, I played end, guard, and tackle. Sat on the end of the bench, guarded the water bottles, tackled anybody that came close, you know. So anyway, I kind of blew up again. So PT was tough. You know, I was struggling out there. And of course, you're talking Fort Bliss, Texas too. So, you know, it's kind of tough to do that. But, you know, the other stuff, I don't know. I can't think of anything that was really super hard. Or really super easy. I mean, you know, I was just kind of like the average kid there, you know, kind of sucked being away like it always does, you know. But yeah, so nothing crazy like that. I don't know. That's about it, you know.
All right. So look, I gotta ask this question this way, okay? I just have to, right? I just have to, okay? You are the Airborne Messiah, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know where this came from, and but that's not the story I want to get to first. Okay. The way I want to do this though is tell me about the Airborne Messiah's first jump. That'd be like Christmas, right? Well, tell me about your first jump.
My first jump, like period, out of jump school?
Yeah. Tell me about jumping out of airplanes. So tell me about all that. Tell me your birth into the Airborne Messiahness that you are.
Okay. The Airborne Messiah. So anyway, you know, I graduated basic training. I go to jump school. It was February of '85. So, you know, we're doing our typical thing and everybody talks big, right? I'll never forget. There was a kid in basic training, man, big, tall kid. His name was Prime, and New York guy. And you ain't ever, you know, talking all the smack. You ain't never going to make this. You ain't never going to do that, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, we go through ground week, you know, we're getting smoked on everything. So we're we'll break off from that real quick. Cause you know, first time they do the break area procedures, right? You remember break area procedures, right? Okay. So, you know, form up, hey, everything's good. Y'all go over there and take a break. Well, we go over to the woods and you know what's coming, right? All of a sudden they just converge on you, man. And that, you know, somebody did something and the next thing you know, everybody's getting smoked. So I'll never forget, I had change in my pocket. And you weren't supposed to have anything in your pockets. And of course, you know, we did push-ups and we did whatever. And next thing you know, they rolled us over, do sit-ups. Doing sit-ups, black cat comes by, man, and grabs all my change. You come and see me when we get done here. So anyway, I bought that black cat Coke because I was not stupid enough to go back and get my change, right? So you know, everything kind of went well. My class didn't go off the 250-foot tower. So our first chance exit was, you know, out of C-130 while in flight, man. And I did probably like a lot of folks, you know, when jump week comes, everybody's like, oh my God, what have we signed up for? You know, everything else is kind of, you know, your feet are on the ground. You hear a lot about it, talk a lot about it. You see some folks on the 250, but not actually doing it. And so, you know, all those times you're kind of thinking like, man, you know, what do I do? It's time to go, you know, like they rig you up, you know, you get in the plane and everything's going. And of course, black hats, you know, they're running their gums too, man, just to make it even better for you. And I just remember like, you know, what was awesome even then was, you know, when they opened the doors, man, and the rush, woof, you know, scared the crap out of me. But at the same time, I just really thought it was cool, you know. And then the next thing you know, you kind of barely hear. I was middle of the stick, you know, green light go, and you really don't have time to think about it or panic. I mean, everybody's just, you know, nut to butt, man. And the next thing you know, you're out the door, you know. And so you're counting, the parachute opens, man, and it was kind of cool, you know. I was like, man, this is awesome, you know. And then you hear, you know, feet knees together, you know, keep your feet knees together and stay loose, Airborne. Keep your feet knees. I'm like, what is that? You know, the black hats on the bullhorns. And so, you know, that was it. Came down, executed my dynamite parachute landing fall, and moved off the drop zone, man. That was it. You know? And from there, I was kind of hooked. After that, I was like,
oh, that's great.
You know? Yep.
That's great. So who was it that said you wanted to be an airborne paratrooper way back when? Who was that did that, made that cue happen?
It was a guy. It was a young couple that lived just up I say street. You know, I lived back in a holler, and he was in the next house, and he was going to college and going to you know, ROTC, and that's what he said, man. If I couldn't be in the Marines, I'd like to go, you know, Army Airborne. And that was it. It was planted in my head. So, and believe it or not, in basic training, I tried to get out of going to jump school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, the battalion jumped in while we were in basic. And we had this big drill sergeant. His name was Bogan. And we're all standing out there in formation, you know, on Logan Heights. How many of y'all going airborne and shit? So, you know, a bunch of it's kind of a package deal going through there. We raise our hand. I want y'all to look left. And they were jumping on bigs. And so they came up to talk to us afterwards. Who was the commander? Felder, I think was his name. Big, tall guy. I think it was Felder, if I'm not mistaken. And Holden. Remember Holden? So anyway, they came and briefed us, and they briefed us on the 3 cycles. So all that stuck in my head is you're in the field for 6 weeks, right? That's your training cycle. And I just got married before I went to basic. So I thought, man, I don't want to be gone for 6 weeks, you know? So I worked out to go down to the pack down there, the S1, the training battalion or training brigade, and said, hey man, I don't want to go to jump school. And thank God again for an E5 in the S1 there. And he asked me, he said, why don't you want to go to jump school? And I explained to that, man. I said, man, 6 weeks, that's a long time. He said, look, dude, that's not 6 weeks, you know, 6 constant weeks. You go to the field for a couple of days, come back, you know, yada, yada, yada. He says, if I send you to a place like Germany, you know, when they go to the field for 6 weeks, you're going to field for 6 weeks. That's like 31 days on a train, you know, whatever. I mean, like, you know, I said, really? He said, yeah, man. So you're probably better off just, you know, holding what you got. So I said, well, okay. I got thoroughly smoked from the drills because I missed a day of training. They had to worry about getting me down there. Did you make your change? No. 1, 2, 3. I mean, I was, you know, but hey, it was a good move. The smoking was worth it. You know what I mean? So
Tell me about Private Stout.
I don't know. I was quite young, quite impressionable, nervous quite a bit at the time. I mean, you come into a place like that, man, it's you know, like Fort Bragg and the 82nd, you know, you're like, holy cow, you know, what am I in for? My first Monday with the unit. So, you know, everybody ships on Friday, right? Hey, you're going here, you're going there. We do our in brief with Sergeant Major Harvey, Skeletor, right? So he tells us where we're going, and then he says, hey, wait a minute. I had a question to ask you guys. You smoke dope? And everybody's like, whoa, you know, kind of looking at each other, doing a double take. And he's pointing at everybody. But you remember his index finger was crooked, right? So he's pointing at you, asking you, but he's pointing to the guy next to me. But anyway, I'll never forget that. I always thought that was funny. But then, you know, so I go to Bravo Battery. So Monday morning, I show up, you know, get there about 6 o'clock, you know. My section sergeant, well, my first section sergeant was Fred D, Big Daddy Jones. All right. But he was, I forget where he was at the time. So a guy by the name of Corporal Neely was running the section in the Stinger platoon. So he talks to me a little bit. He said, all right, man, we'll go outside the formation, right, where the old Bravo Battery formation was. So I'm standing there waiting. It's about 6:25. One guy kind of straggles out, man, and he is just staggering, right? I mean, his eyes are as red as my shirt. He's looking over at me. He says, hey, you must be the new guy. Yep. I said, all right, man. Hey, man, Kenley V. Casado. You can call me Eli. I said, all right, cool, man. Nice to meet you. And he turns his head back, and he's got a patch cut out of his head, of his hair, with stitches, right? So just before I get a chance to ask him, like, what happened, it's like the doors blew off the Bravo Battery entrance, right? Boom. And I hear the loudest voice I've ever heard, like the rest of the platoon coming out in the battery, but this voice just booming. What had happened was they're all coming out, the Stinger platoon. And that guy was, what was it? Zuber, Bud Zuber, right? Never forget, that guy had the loudest voice to this day. I don't know if I ever heard a voice that loud. But anyway, they're coming out, and Casado, you know, proceeds to tell me that they were at Chi Chi's on Sunday night watching football or watching something. And they got into a barroom brawl there. I said, oh, really, man? Is that what happened to you? He said, no, my girlfriend hit me in the head with that one. So he was at the bar with his girlfriend hitting on the bartender, and she clubbed him with a stool. And I was like, oh, my God, what have I signed up for, man? So that's how Private Stout got indoctrinated to the 82nd Airborne Division. But I tell you what, they were hard charging, smart. I mean, they kept you in line and took care of you, man. I loved it, you know.
So it's interesting thinking back on that time in the 82nd. We weren't smoking pot, but anything else went, you know, alcohol, come on. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And you know, I was talking with Colonel Bodine earlier, and he talked about how, you know, he said we throttled it. We had to throttle it, but it, you know, put a governor on it. But you know, there's so many times. You remember, were you at Cattleman's when we got on the tables?
No. I was at JRTC.
Oh, wow.
That story's legendary, man. I mean, you know, we even heard about it down in Fort Polk. You know what I mean?
Oh, so tell me about a time, you know, during training where you didn't quite think you were going to make it.
You mean like a class or something, or what are you talking? Just
I don't know. I don't
shoot.
know. Anything like that?
I
How
don't
about
know. I
tell
you
me
know,
tell me about being honor grad somewhere.
well, I was honor grad at my BNOT class there at Fort Bragg, which was kind of I I guess kind of surprising because back in those times that was core BNOC, right? So there was every MOS on Fort Bragg went there,
Right.
So you know it was just it was kind of cool, to be able to be kind of put up against that and come out on top, man. That was kind of cool about that. I was excited,
That's
uh,
awesome.
didn't really I didn't really expect it. It wasn't like just happened, man. So that was cool. I like that. I was one of the few when I was a young gun to get remember what was the old SQTs? Remember the SQTs, and that's the one we had to take once a year?
Yeah. I took one.
Yeah, I got a 100 on my SQT. I think the first one I took, man. That was
Oh wow, that's great.
yeah, which figure the odds. I guess I figured out the pattern on the dots pretty good. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I don't know,
right.
jump master school now, that was scary.
Yeah.
That was one that I thought, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to make this. I mean, that's a stressful, you being a black hat and of course being the jump master, you understand, man. There's some
Oh yeah.
stress there, man. It just, I don't know if this is going to work. You know what I mean?
One of the most interesting things to me about jump master school was that the standard was both so hard and so rigid. It was like it was just kind of the way it was. There
Yeah.
wasn't either you did it the right way and you caught the deficiencies, either you hung out the door and used the proper procedures and you weren't scared, or you kind of didn't. And it was an interesting thing. One of the wildest things to me was the amount of people that failed jump master school because of practical work in the aircraft.
Yeah.
It was people that got in that aircraft. There was a significant number. Nobody ever talks about it. Okay.
Yep.
Nobody does. Of the
Right.
people that were just plain straight up scared.
Yeah.
All right. And couldn't kick the down locks right because their feet weren't working.
Yeah.
They were shaking, and we don't talk about that, but there's many days I'm sitting up there with a clipboard going,
Yep.
so I'm sorry, you missed that down lock. You're not making it, and you didn't even realize you missed it.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, we had a guy in my class. He was not a DeVarty, a Corps artillery captain. He was the first guy, and we had in my class, we had like 3 times we had to go up, weather, winds, whatever. Excuse me. And this guy come up, and every time he did it, he was awesome. You know what I mean? Boom, boom, boom. When we practiced and did that we did the free hangs back then, all right, when I went through school. So did it great then. Well, the one time he comes up there, 4th grade, first thing you got to do, right? You hook up, push your static line forward, drop your hands, got to hit your leg and spin around and turn around, towards the skin of the aircraft. Well, guess what? Did it great every time. We rehearsed it, and every time we didn't do it for grade, the time we did it for grade, guess what he did? How many times did he do that? And that one time, that little pressure, bam, nutted him up, man. I'll never forget that. I think he ended up passing, but I just, like I said, just shows, man. Just takes that little bit and he's done,
It's a tough school, boy. I saw so many young captains not be able to take command over not being able to pass jump master school. It was crazy. So tell me about your time in the chorus.
Yeah, that was fun.
Tell me about that. Yeah, because you were traveling TDY everywhere, pretty ladies hitting on you, I'm sure.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, man. None of that happened.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. So I got to tell you, Bruce Lucier, God bless him, God rest his soul, he was highly pissed off that I got called back to go be in the course. So we were doing a BMET in December, Uh, and he comes up and down, the line while we're getting, all our Jeeps, right? M151s are all in line to be inspected. Come here, Stout. Can you sing? So I'm like, nah, I can sing a little. Get your ass up to the chorus, right? We need to have somebody try out for the chorus. Yeah. So I go up there and they want you to sing the Star Spangled Banner, So I sing the Star Spangled Banner. And he says, all right, so listen, he said, we're getting ready to go on block leave, come back, beginning of January. So, I go back. And what did they tell you? I said, they come back in January. What the, he just went off. And I said, well, what do you want me to do, Sergeant? You told me to go try out. I didn't want you to make it, I just wanted you to go try out. So anyway, I end up making it through the auditions. It's like a 4-week course, man, a 4-week, auditioning period, I guess you call it. You got to learn the different songs and do this, that, and the other. And
right.
Then you kind of got to be selected, through the leaders in the course. But, it was a lot of fun. It was not obviously like physically strenuous or stressful. You know what I mean? Like you're not out digging a ditch or digging a foxhole or doing that stuff. But, our schedule was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you do 2 or 3 school shows a day, then you come back, change into your Class A's, and, go do a show or 2 at night. So, it was like a different kind of stress. I mean, I've learned a lot of that coming out. There's a different levels of stress and different levels of pressure, depending on what you do. But man, we had a lot of great times. I mean, traveling around different schools, traveling, doing shows at night, different nights at different places, free trip to the convention, and for all the, busting chops everybody said about, course guys, blah, blah, blah. I'll never forget being in the, where did we jump in? I forget where we went for the convention. I was in the course. Anyway, we got to the place, and they got all the giant hospitality room where everybody's at. Well, I'm going to tell you what, we're talking with folks, and we people are, some of us are gathered around, and what was the song that was big? I think it was "God Bless the USA" that we had started singing. The chorus had done a couple of years before, put together, and I tell you what, man. We decided we were going to sing that, kind of put it together impromptu. The chorus guys get up there because some of the old timers, at the old timers, World War II guys are about like the age we are now when I was in the course. And man, they just ate that up. Well, what was surprising to me was all of our own guys, our own generation guys that were there, that man, they want to sing more and more and more, which is surprising because, when you're on the street, they're like, bunch of sissies, you know what I mean? But man, they just ate us up. Of course, could have been the copious amounts of alcohol that were flowing in those hospitality rooms too. But it was a lot of fun to do that, I mean, we jumped into California, Los Alamitos, and did a recruiting gig down there. We went to go to different schools there. I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff, man. I enjoyed it. Although I got to tell you, if I was a president and had my way, one of the things I noticed was, and it's understandable, especially as I got older and was, at the CSM level, but the division CSM puts a thumb on all the sergeant majors in the division. You will have a representative in the course. I don't care what the problems are, you'll have somebody at the course representing, which I think is part of the reason I made it, because I couldn't sing that good. And then they put me in the bass section, and I can't do bass. I did what I could, but the big thing was they had a representative from 3rd and 4th, man. I was Sergeant Major Harry's guy because I saved him, you know what I mean? But anyway, one of the things I noticed was a lot of the guys were cherries. And they were cherries because, a brigade or battalion sergeant major is like, I don't want to bust up this squad or this team that's certified to get a guy in the course. And most of those guys like, screw that, I don't want to go to the course, right? But you get a new guy in, hey, man, you need to go over and try out for the course. Well, they make it in the course. Well, the problem with that is they don't know how good they got it. You know what I mean? So the fact they got to shine their boots for a show pisses them off. Well, dude, you could be digging a ditch in the heat of the night. You could be out there doing a, 0-2 mash tack and road marching back. Well, they don't know that. You know what I mean? They just think, oh, this sucks. Okay, it sucks. Wait till you get back out there on the street, buddy. So, and the other thing about that is, you're going to represent the division in so many public places that have zero idea of what soldiering and being paratrooper is all about. So in my opinion, it would have been better if they'd have had folks that did that. Now some of them were, what I mean? Like I was in 3rd or 4th for about 2 years before I went over there, and I wasn't the only one that had some time on the street, but there were quite a few, out of like 25, there were probably a good third, maybe more, that had never been on the street. They were brand new cherry, put their beret, their flash on the beret. Hey, troop, go try out for the course. Oh well, was what it was. But they were damn good, and they still are damn good. You know what I mean?
Do me a favor real quick. Like, I'm going to try to count, but list off the jobs that you had in the Army. Tell me about the different jobs you had in the Army. Let's list them real quick.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I only had really 4 or 5. I mean, I was a stinger gunner, right?
Okay.
I was in the course, if you want to count that as a job, but I was still a stinger gunner.
All right.
Stinger team chief, stinger section sergeant. I was an OC at JRTC twice. I was a platoon sergeant for the old school stinger platoons up in Alaska, right? So shout out to my Arctic Stinger guys. And then I was a first sergeant. I was the 2-0 Alpha. And then I was the CSM at 3rd or the 4th, and then the CSM at 5th Armored Brigade. Well, I had about a 2-month stint as the intel, the S2 sergeant major in the 31st Brigade before I got appointed. So, which that's a scary thought, me as an intel sergeant major. But anyway, me and intel don't get along,
Tell me about some, I'm doing a series called Heroes I Know. Tell me about a few of your heroes.
Man, where do I start? The first one I guess I have to mention, we talked about him earlier. Bruce Lucier was my very first platoon sergeant. You know what I mean? And just, a great guy, great mentor, just your first guy, like your first real example, right? That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be like when I grow up. I had a lot of awesome first sergeants, man. I learned a lot from. I'm getting all sorts of stuff on this computer, man. I apologize. And I just shut us down, didn't I?
No, we're good. We're good.
All right. I can't see you. You can see me. All right.
Yeah.
Man, Marlon Conklin was another one. Great guy, great leader, great friend. He probably saved my my butt and allowed him to save my career on multiple occasions. Wilbur V, the bear, it doesn't matter whether that guy, whether you deal directly or indirectly with him, man, that guy is a positive influence. You know what I mean? Like you learn from that guy. Shoot. Now I'm drawing a blank. When we get done, I'll have about 40 of them I can list off that are my heroes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's change the channel for a second. Mm-hmm. Tell me about some soldiers you prayed for. You remember some soldiers you prayed for? Maybe you lost. Maybe you had to chapter out of the Army for some reason, but somebody that took special attention that you can remember. Do you remember anybody?
There's a lot of folks that I remember. There's a lot of folks, you kind of think back like, man, kind of wish things had been different. Of course, we all know, Jamie Buford. you know, I get I got so mad at the system over his death. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in hindsight being 2020, I guess there's always things that you wish you'd done better or wish you'd have seen or had known better, you know. Um, you know, I lost another one when I was a CSM there, Mike Crutchfield, you know, another great kid. Um, you know, that I guess there were some signs that you just don't know or don't notice, you know. You know, a lot of guys that I always had a hard time as a leader, you know, whenever somebody got in trouble. And a lot of times, you know, as you progress through the army changes, you know, and things that we did that folks kind of laughed at or thought was funny, you know, the army frowned on it, you know, as you get, you know, and that was, I always had such a dilemma when folks would come in and you just think back, like, you know, 10 years ago, we'd have laughed that off, you know, but now, oh, by the way, you know, you got to do this. There were a lot of guys I wished. One guy pops into my mind in particular that, and mainly because, you know, I just talked to him a couple of weeks back, but you remember Don Didion? So, you know, his story always amazed me. And I'm amazed regularly as we go through the army and you'd see folks that came from, you say potentially or actually were bad situations. And you know, he was one of those guys, you know, to tell you about, you know, he came from a bad situation. And man, he was just a stud, you know, when we were all there together. And then I guess, you know, I don't know, he fell on hard times. I don't know what happened, you know, but I know that at one point in time, like he was gone. And then I happened to see a picture in one of those reunion, you know, the reunion groups. And I'm like, man, that looks a lot like Didion, except he's a little older and not quite as skinny as he used to be, you know? So I was always excited because I always wondered, like, man, what happened to that guy? You know, and there was another couple of guys in that group that were like, man, they were great dudes. And then when you come back, like when I left from Charlie Battery, and they were just studs, you know, and then you come back and, you know, you heard, oh, this one happened or that happened. And you're like, man, you know, you wish you could kind of reach out, like, where are those guys at? So those kind of folks are the folks you know, and I guess I can't always put a name with it. And sometimes it's not just one particular individual, or it's an individual that will roll through my head like that day. And then the next day, maybe somebody else, like, man, I wonder whatever happened to that person. God, I hope this worked out for him or that worked out for her or whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I guess I feel like I'm dancing around that, but I'm not. I'm really just like, you know, there's many that you think, boy, I hope things worked out for them. You know, so.
And one of the things that I was trying to explain to somebody today was the span of influence that somebody like you has, right? At the levels of numbers of people that see you and know you and have, you know, like as a first sergeant, my span of influence at its largest at any point was 183 soldiers. You know, that was the largest unit that I had at any one time that looked up to me as their first sergeant. But as a command sergeant major at a battalion or brigade level, that is exponentially larger. And so those kinds of things, that kind of people almost become, and it's sad to say this, but almost soup in your mind. It becomes hard to bubble up, or, you know, or it's just a kind of a flow. Tell me about a weapon or a piece of equipment. Did you have something that you loved, you really enjoyed, or it helped you a lot? Was there something that you carried with you, a mascot maybe, or anything like that?
Not really. You know, I was never big on, you know, for lack of a better term, like Lucky Rabbit's foot kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I never had anything like that. Now, of course, you know, being a good paratrooper, man, you always had to have, and especially a guy from 3rd or the 4th, which, you know, if any other unit probably tell you the same, you better have your unicorn there, right? And I always did a jump master coin. I had a friend of mine make me a jump master coin that I had for years. And your division PAM 600-2, you better have those things. So that's my disclaimer. I always had those things, but you know, as far as like, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Right. But, I can't think of anything that was like a, you know, something that I always had that was kind of, for lack of a better term, like a good luck charm. You know what I mean? No, I guess that's that. I don't.
Were you a good shot?
I had my moments. You know, I'd go to the range sometimes and be great. You know, be sharpshooter, expert. And then other times I come off the range and I'm like, man, you know, I got to go change the badge and marksman. Like, what did I do? You know what I mean? And you know, the funny thing was I was always a better shot with a long rifle than I was with a pistol, right? Of course, now figure the odds, right? As a Stinger gunner, you carry a 45, then they change it to a 9mm, right? And then as a first sergeant and a sergeant major, you know, you're supposed to have a 9mm. So it's a good thing, man. That, like, you know, at that position, you're like a last line of defense, because I probably would have done better trying to throw them things than trying to shoot it. You know, I'm the guy that would like I fire with my left hand, but try to close my right eye, kind of thinking like, no, that ain't working. You know, I managed to qualify. I don't think I ever come off there and didn't qualify, but yeah, I was never real good with a handgun, but I wasn't too bad with an M4 or an M16. You know.
So you were always very physically fit. You were always leader of the pack, you know, when it came to PT, and you were, you know, you were a man's man, you know, out there leading from the front. You had his famous line, "Trust me, I'm from New Jersey." Say that. What did it tell it? Tell me that line.
It was "Trust me, I'm Irish. I'm from New Jersey, and I work for the government." If that don't have you running, you're in trouble, right? That's it.
So tell me about some unit mottos. You remember different mottos? You know, cold steel, prepare to move forward.
Yeah. You know, my Stinger platoon, we were no slack. You know, the Arctic Stingers. At brigade, you know, we were the daggers. You know, so and of course Bravo. You know, we didn't have, like, you remember when we'd always
just said Bravo.
Right? Exactly. You know, so. I don't know. That was kind of the gist of my mottos, man. I think they were all pretty cool. You know, I liked them. I still, you know, when I send out my birthday things on Facebook, you know, my Arctic Stinger guys, I've kind of slacked off lately, but you know, usually I'd send out my no slack, you know, kind of thing. I mean, that was a good platoon, man. I could tell you, you know, I mean, so. We were quite the wild bunch.
Well, you guys have a reputation that you carried with you after that time that I don't think anybody else. You know, you realize that we were part of a unique era. Looking back on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking back on it, we were. It hasn't matured quite yet, but we were part of the '90s Army.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if that's good or bad, but yeah, we were.
Right. Looking back on it, we were the '90s. That's when we grew up in the '90s.
Yep.
And you know, JRTC rotations.
Yep.
You know, looking back on it, times were good in the '90s.
Yeah.
Except for if you want to get promoted. If you want to get promoted, then never mind.
Right. What was it? 990 never, right? Where you get
Right? Yep. Drawdown. You know, it's like Air Force, we were always trying to combine stuff.
Yeah. Now, see, I spent quite a bit. I mean, I came in '85, man. So I had about 5 years of that '80s Army when things were, you know, things are fun, man. You know what I mean? I mean, we did some stuff. You know, it was a lot of fun. I remember every DRB, man, was always, we were going to Nicaragua. You know what I'm saying? When I got there to Bravo, we were always going to Nicaragua. You know, get ready.
That's
man.
right.
This is when we're going. You know.
Mm. Crazy times
Good
looking
times,
back on
man. Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
times. So tell me about being a command sergeant major. Tell me about that. How was that?
Uh, it was fun. It was, it was, it was humbling, and it was a huge honor. You know what I mean? Because, you're representing, X number of soldiers, right? Or paratroopers. Um, and I think for me, or anybody that was lucky enough to come back to third or the fourth after you spent some time there, it was much more personal. And I'm just saying this from my standpoint. I don't know what others think, but I mean, it was personal. Like I said, when I showed up there, I was, just 18 years old, man. You know what I mean? Coming out of basic and AIT and jump school, and had years of, guys like, Delaney and Grishkowski and Conklin and Casado and Zuber and Gardella and the list goes on and on. Maggot, right? I can, Rob Maggot and Ray Leatherwood, all those guys, man, that you grew up with, Big Rob, that are now you're like the guy that represents all of that. I mean, all the guys that are there now and all the guys that came before you. You know what I mean? So it was, to
Yep.
me, like, just huge to be a part of that. We were the only airborne air defense battalion in the world, man. So, I was really blessed throughout my whole career to be able to jump out of planes for the majority of my career. And I was super blessed to come back and be the sergeant major of that battalion. It was a lot of responsibility. I learned a lot. I think, if I had to be completely honest, I think my best, what do you say? I don't know how to say it. I guess my best potential, though, was probably as a first sergeant, because I feel like as I go back in time, I think there's so many things that I feel like I should have done better for that battalion and for the brigade. And I don't know. But it was, I mean, it was a huge responsibility, but an honor to be selected to be a CSM. But it was, I mean, at the same time, it was kind of tough. You know what I mean? Like trying to walk that line. Does that make? I don't know if that makes any sense, or if I'm rambling. I guess maybe I'm rambling a little bit, but
No, not at all. Look, I'll tell you that great leaders never understand why they're so great. And that's what you just explained. You just said, ramble, ramble. I don't know. But I'll tell you that working for you is an honor. And being a teammate of yours is an honor, because you raise the level of everybody around you, because you have this thing on your shoulders somehow that you don't see. Everybody else sees it, but you don't see it. Follow me. I can do it. We can figure this out. And that's the way it's always been, and at every level. And your soldiers, time and time again, will tell you how they looked up to you and would follow you anywhere. And that goes till today. I would the same way. And it's just something about you. Leaders have that. Were there any officers that you looked up to over your time in service that maybe helped you? I know that we had two shared battery commanders that worked together that I just absolutely love.
yeah. And first, thank you. The honor obviously was mine, working with you and everybody else, man. I mean, we don't get, as a leader, you don't get nowhere without the folks that work around you. And I was lucky. I mean, I don't remember when I came back to the battalion, and I may have said this when I came back to Charlie Battery. I said, I'm from New Jersey. In New Jersey, we learn how to talk trash, pretty good. So my job is to talk trash. Your job's to back it up. And I'm going to tell you what, that happened every time. I mean, Charlie Battery was, head and shoulders above every other battery during our time. Now I know our other buddies gonna be like, it's BS, but they know in the back of their mind, right? And then, I get back to third or the fourth, man, and our reenlistment stats are through the roof, which they were always like that. But they just continued, we continued to just dominate things in that place, man. And so, my success, our success, any leader success really comes from what the folks that are working for us and with us do, man. And so that's where, like, to me, it's always humbling and honored that people say, like the compliment you played, that ain't me, man. That was everybody that stood behind me or stood in front of me and said, okay, here's what he said, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? So, anyway, what was the other question you asked? I'm sorry. Now I am rambling.
So one of these days, your grandkids are going to look at this and see the memories of, granddad. Tell me about I have to imagine that you feel honored to serve those around you and your country, much like I do. Tell me about that. Tell me about serving your country.
It's something that I don't think we as young troopers, and I don't say not all, but a lot of us don't really even think about it. You know what I mean? Like when I joined the Army, I wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm going to join to serve my country. At the time, like I said, hey, I'm not going to college. I don't want to go to work at a factory. Recruiters are calling, they're going to pay me $5,000, all that. I'm in, right? And then the original thing was, 4 years and out. And the next thing 25 years later, I think as you get farther along, and I'm saying that as a guy who joined the Army when we weren't at war, and I am in awe and have the utmost respect for the folks that joined the military, after 9/11, because they knew what they were doing. We didn't know that. We signed up like, it could be a war. Okay, whatever, but they knew. Guess what, man? You're going to war. One way or the other. You're going one or two places. So maybe they think about it more at the younger age than some of us did. But as I got older, you kind of realize what you're doing and the impact that it has, on those around you. And I don't think there's any better honor than, that's whether you spend 25 or 35 years or, 2 or 3 years than to step up and serve your country. I don't think there's anything better. I mean, for all of our faults in this country, most of us have all been someplace to say like, whew, man, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to get back home. Right. Because this place, while we have things to work out, is an awesome, awesome place, an awesome country, man. And we're blessed to be a part of it and to be a person, one of the many who step up to defend and serve that, man, you can't get better than that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? For whatever else you do the rest of your life, that's got to be, the honor, So I just, like I said, I probably think about it more now because I'm retired. You know what I mean? Now I'm retired and I'm old and I'm not around a bunch of soldiers anymore. You know what I mean? So now it probably means a lot more, even then as a senior guy. But I just don't think there's anything better you could do. I think everybody ought to do in some way, shape, or form to do something to serve this country.
So let's do this. All right.
All right.
So I want you to stand up. Eventually, I want you to salute and report. I want you to say your name and your hometown, your rank, your name and your hometown reports. And then I want you to say, Sergeant Major Stout or what your name and your rank and sign out. Okay. Like signing out.
Okay.
And then, but I also I want you to say like battery, attention. And I want us to both say cold steel, prepare to move forward.
All right. All right.
All
So
right.
I know you're going to edit some of this at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've been rehearsing the story of the Airborne Messiah. So at some point we got to tell that story.
Okay. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Let's
You know
do
what I mean?
this. All right. So let's do this. Okay. Let's take a break.
All
All
right.
right. Go take a pee, get a beer. All right. And we're going to lead back into the second part with the salute and the cold steel, prepare to move forward, and then the Airborne Messiah story. Okay.
All right. All right. I got you.
All right. Yeah. Oh man, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome.
I noticed you'd said something, Marshall, in the middle, and then I hate to say it, man, but I don't remember some of these. Like the heavy drop, I remember. I can't remember closing down the place with Albrecht. I must have been probably doing that at I bet we did that at the hotel after the ball, is what I'm thinking. Oh my God, O'Neill with his JRTC story. That's bad. Yeah, that was funny. LT training. Oh, I forgot about that one. Yep. You remember the new LT training we did?
Yes. Remind me of that. Tell me about that.
Yep. And remember the pre-drunk training we did too, right?
Well, no. So we just did the pre-drunk. We wrote that up. Always look before you drink because you're afraid there's going to be spit in there or something.
Yeah. Well, it's always look before you reach, right? Oh my God! Now, man, see that I'm on camera. Now you got me crushed. You got me thinking. Always look before you reach. Stagger right to avoid collision. Crawling drunk always has the right of way. And before you exit, hand your bill to your buddy. Yep.
Great times, man.
That was awesome, man. I got to tell you, it's a wonder we survived some of that stuff, man. I got to tell you.
So looking back on it, right, it is a wonder that we survived. Some of the times and some of the places and some of the nights, were legendary for a small group of us, right?
Yeah.
A really small, tight group of us. Like you mentioned the Stinger platoon, your Airborne Stingers, your Alaska Stingers. That's a great little small unit, Cold Steel during our time when you were the first sergeant. We had a great unit. We spent great times together. It was very tight knit, and then I had the luckiness of being with you as you were 2-0 Alpha and I was an OC for you at JRTC. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
great times,
good times, man. I mean, we formed a bond in a family that some folks just don't understand. And I think sometimes, like, if you think back, I mean, this is just based on our experience with 3rd or the 4th, so to speak. And I'm sure that if you asked a guy from 1505 or from, 313th, that they probably see the same, because we all travel around the same circles. And so we see each other at different places, hey, we're troops together. Hey, you're a squad leader and I'm one of your team leaders, or you're the first one, I'm a platoon sergeant. And so, and then, oh, by the way, we go to these different, JRTC and other places that we're brothers and sisters, now. I mean, of course, back in our days, in the old days, it was all brothers, but now we got brothers and sisters, man, that we have been around and gone to different locations and just, we've got a bond, man, that most folks don't get. And most folks don't get those bonds. You know what I mean? I remember I had, one of my ex-wives asked me, she says, I don't understand, like, why will you, like, somebody could call here at 10 o'clock at night and say they're an hour away, but they're passing through, and you'd ride that hour just to go spend 15 minutes with them. And I'm like, that's my family. You don't understand the things we've been through, I mean, and that was, that's just the way we are. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just, I don't know. I mean, of course, a good portion of my career, I was single, you know what I mean? So that literally, really, truly, more than ever was, my family. You know what I mean? And so I really wish I I probably should have respected other people's families, especially when it came to time, right? Family time and Charlie Battery. I should have respected that more. Now that like I have kids, I understand that. And then like seeing seeing folks have to deploy to war, it was always humbling to watch anyway. When they'd be there with their families. But now, like to have my kids and to kind of understand what those folks must go through, man. I mean, that's emotional, dude. That's gut wrenching. You know what I mean? I look back on that now and think, oh my God, that's tough, man. That's tough, and some folks just don't know that. I mean, people don't know. Oh, I'm going on a business trip for a week. Okay. Well, that's nice. It's not the same as the
See
thing
you in
we do.
Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So anyway, I don't know. I got off on a tangent there, but Yeah.
So do this for me. Do this for me. I want you to stand up, stay in the view of the camera. All right. And then I want you to kind of report and say your name and where you're from. And then I want you to then call the battery to attention. I want to do cold steel, prepare to move forward with you.
In unison, me and you both, huh?
In unison. Okay. And then I want you to sign out. And then I want you to tell the Airborne Messiah story.
Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get all this right without screwing it up.
Oh man, look at you. You've been working out. You look great, man.
Yeah, you like that?
Dude, look at you. Look at you. Wow.
I wore my special small shirt. Yeah, that's it. It's
my gosh.
Friday shirt. All right, can you see me
there? You remind me of that chest sticking out of Gene O'Neill, man. He sticks out. He got that. I got that big.
That's right. Hey, you remember they'd always say, I talk about steely-eyed, flat-bellied. Like, I don't think you were steely-eyed and flat-bellied, Sergeant Major, but steely-eyed will give you, All right, so report, name, rank, where I'm from, and then call the battery to attention.
Yeah.
All right. Ready? Can you see me? I guess I can see me.
Yeah, I see you.
All right, here we see. Command Sergeant Major Stout, Joseph E. Jr., 1 each, reports, hailing from Gordonsville, Tennessee, by way of Trenton, New Jersey. Battery, attention. Huh!
Cold steel, prepare to move forward.
Joe Stout signing out. How's that?
I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you for indulging. Thank you for indulging.
Oh, no worries. That was fun.
Yeah, right.
I got that command voice out there. You know what I mean?
It's nice to be able to, so that's something that I'm going to tell you straight up. I miss getting out there and being a part of a formation of men and women that have a common purpose.
Yep.
There's something about that is very awe-inspiring. We're running down Ardennes, right? How many, how many people, how many miles, how much cohesion was made on Ardennes Street, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you have any particular memories of Charlie 9349?
Oh yeah. I remember in the old days when I was in Bravo, and of course back in those days, both on Bravo side and Charlie side, the Stinger platoon roomed on the ground floor, and on both sides. Now, I don't remember as a private Bravo being quite as stringent as Charlie Battery was about coming in through that end door. You know what I mean? Like in Charlie Battery, if you were a Vulcaneer, man, you could come in through that end door. And Bravo battery weren't so bad. Usually they'd let because the motor guys, room down there too. So those two were pretty good. Most of the Vulcaneers came in through the other doors, I can remember, I remember in Bravo, we did battle royals all the time in those rooms, man, and in that hallway. Like, me and Mike Gibson were the road warriors, Hawk and Animal, and we had this guy, Robert Carr, and he always did his Ric Flair invitation, you know what I mean? And we were just trying to kill each other in those hallways, and then we go over to Charlie, and I can remember, like, they remember all the Vulcaneers, everybody would line up along the wall to draw weapons out of the arms room. And we'd all be sitting in those rooms. And I can remember the one room we always got was at the end of when I came back there as a first sergeant, it was my office. But that one room, not quite at the end, but on the left, as you're walking towards the end, we'd all, I think, like Negron and, oh my God, what was the other dude? I can't remember. Anyway, Negron and Greer, and I think one other room in there. And we'd hang out in that room. And as folks would come in there to line up, we'd drag them in there and work them over. You remember that? Were you ever one of those? We had to drag in, run you out. And if they'd hang in there, we'd open that door, boom, snatch them and bring them in. And then Lily, we had a big supply guy named Lily. You remember Lily?
I remember Lily. I know Lily.
And if you pass that red metal line in 9349 heading towards the T, man, that was Stinger territory. And I'll never forget, he'd come over there to the T and he'd do that, Stinger, let's ride. Well, inevitably, anytime he did that, he never thought about checking his back, man. It never failed. Just about time he did that, one of us coming out of the latrine. And so we'd bum rush him into the T, man, and just work his ass over, man. It was so much fun. We did that one time, and we ended up spilling into the supply room, right? Because he went in there, we went in there. Jimson, remember Jumpmaster Jimson? Bunch of us went in there, man, and Jimson was like a wrestling champ, and he's just tying people in knots. We're whooping up on each other, beating each other down. And here comes First Sergeant Patterson. What the hell are y'all doing, man? We had that place shredded. So we ended up, I forget we had a GI the day room or something for that, man. But on there, those times were just so much fun, man. Cuddy comes in there one time, man. The Vulcaneers all went out to the field in Charlie Battery for some reason. The Stinger 2 didn't go. And they come back like on Sunday night. And he comes in that end door, Stinger! And of course, everybody heard him, everybody saw it coming. And they all, exited out at the windows down to the old Red Beret Club. And Clinton, now I'm getting this all secondhand now, but Clinton was a guy I went to basic training with, Todd Clinton. Ran out of there in like his house shoes down to the Red Beret Club because Cuddy wanted him to come out there and set up the GP large we had for him, man. It's crazy, that place, man. It was wild, man. Nothing like it. The paintings, man, the artwork on that building were just incredible. We're awesome, man. I was, that was like a historical monument for folks like us. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. I wish we could have went on some kind of a visual tour. I wish I could have went and filmed it before we left with all there was so much paint on the wall there that had it was our history.
Yes, it was. Well, and I got to tell you now, I've seen some folks on Facebook have posted some pictures of the artwork that some had at different places, but man, there were some good paintings on them walls, man. I mean, they were hard. They were neat, man. But yeah, I was, 9349, man. I remember during, remember when First Brigade jumped into Honduras? Remember when the Contras crossed in?
I went on that.
Yeah, and the Contras crossed into Honduras and the 82nd. We drew the line in the jungle, so to speak.
Right.
I spent that night out monitoring a radio in front of Charlie 93-4. It was my birthday, my 22nd birthday, out there monitoring a radio because we didn't have all the rigs that we had in nowadays in the CQ desk and the staff duty. So they had to monitor what was going on. And I stayed out there all night. I volunteered. I was in the course at the time, and I was getting ready to work on my car. And somebody talked about they called out the division. So I went up there. I was like, hey, man, what do you need? They're like, hey, man, monitor the radios. Okay, man. So that was cool, man. I mean, that was, I remember being in the day rooms, man, and playing in Bravo when I first got there. Our training days, we'd do PT, and then we go up to the day room and do VACR. And man, it was really informal. We just all sat up there and you did all sorts of like, hey, if you recognize it, you got 3 seconds. If you can't recognize it, you drop them doing push-ups, and next guy's up, or, 2 guys facing their backs to the screen. I mean, how many days and weeks I remember doing that stuff up there, man. I mean, it was awesome. And, it's just, that was such an awesome building, man. I mean, just an awesome time. You know what I mean? That was like, that was our home, right? That's every time you came back to 9349, man,
We had our own dining facility.
Yep.
Sergeant Thompson.
Yeah.
Our DFAC manager.
Man.
Right?
Yep.
Looking back on it, it's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, man. That was awesome, dude. And of course, all around there, you played the football games old Russ Bodine was talking about in the park in the ball field, man. You had more people on profile come Monday morning, man. And you had, we'd kill each other out there. It was fun. All in good fun, right? Shoot, how much
tell
time
me
you got, man, because we could go like all night doing this if we ain't careful.
Oh, I'm all for it. And so I told you why this is. I think that one, this is mostly for your family.
Yeah.
But also for a guy like you, look, this is going to be hugely popular. Folks want to hear from you. Folks love you. They do. They love you. So in that vein, tell me the Airborne Messiah story.
All right. So, I really have 2 nicknames, right? So, it's the Airborne Messiah. And then, of course, I come in peace, right? Buzz Lightyear. I got to tell you them stories because they're both funny in their own right, or unique. We'll put it that way. So the Airborne Messiah story, man. So one day sitting out there in Charlie Battery in the Stinger platoon, waiting on a formation about 5 o'clock or so. Cause one of the rare occasions that a first sergeant runs over with his meeting. Cause I know as a first sergeant, I never did that. Right. Right. But yeah, I see the thumbs up. Is everybody on the camera going to see that with your grin? Yeah. So anyway, we're out there waiting around. And I think it was, it's Velton Locklear, right? So like Marlon Conklin, all the guys were in a platoon sergeant meeting. And so Rob Maggot, he's out there. And of course, Rob's a walking ASOP, right? To this day, guys are walking ASOP. And he starts just, spitting out questions. What is this? What about that? How many of this? And people are answering. And so he asked a question and somebody answered it and it was wrong. And I said, no, it's whatever it was. I can't even remember what the question or the answer was. And Ray Hargrove in his wildly sarcastic tone, man, you are the shit. You are the Airborne Messiah. Right. So like, we all laughed it off, we're like, oh, okay. The Airborne Messiah. So dude, literally, I thought, okay, no big deal, whatever. It was funny, we all formations done. So like a week later, T-Bone and Grishkowski from Bravo Battery come over and they're like, hey man, I hear you're the Airborne Messiah. I'm like, what? So, and all of a sudden like grew like wildfire. Next thing I know, like everybody's calling me the Airborne Messiah. So, I kind of rolled with it. Okay, I'm the Airborne Messiah, So anyway, I go down to JRTC and, there's like 24 OCs down there, and like 20 of them from division at some point in time, right? Well, Grishkowski and T-Bone were already down there. So they had already kind of prep the battlefield, unbeknownst to me, right? So, I get down there and like, oh, hey, this is the Airborne Messiah, Okay. So one of the guys down there, Clay Wilson's like, nah, man, they can't all know he's the Airborne Messiah. I'm like, no, really, they do. So he comes up to do a rotation and he runs, he's supposed to be doing I can't remember if it was Alpha or Charlie, but anyway, he ran into Grace. And the Grace says to him, hey, you work with Stout? He said, yeah. He said, hey, how's the old Airborne Messiah doing? So Wilson calls me up. Holy shit, it's true, man. You are the Airborne Messiah. So, and it just went, man. I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a crazy thing because it just all started out as a fluke, man. Nobody, it wasn't like, oh, that's it. I'm gonna. It just was kind of funny. And next thing you know, man, it's just nationwide. Pardon the pun, right? So that was the story.
You're gonna be on Jimmy Kimmel next week.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so fast forward now, I leave JRTC and I go up to Alaska, right? And me and my platoon leader and the guy who was my senior squad leader, a guy by the name of Tom Strickland, are all supposed to go down to a CPX at Fort Lewis. So I pull up to pick up the LT about 4 o'clock in the morning, rap on his door, and him and his wife both come to the door. And when he opens up his door, he's looking at me like really, like concentrating. I'm like, hey, oh, wait, sir, what's going on? And then his wife comes out and they're both looking at me. And then they kind of look at each other, and like, what the hell's going on with you guys? What, I'm thinking to myself, what kind of craziness is happening here? And he says, what do you think? She says, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, you think what? What do you think? She said, well, my platoon sergeant is Buzz Lightyear. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, sir? Who's this? They said, have you not seen this movie, Toy Story? I'm like, no, sir, I'm watching it. He says, oh, you got to see it. The character he's talking about Buzz Lightyear. And I thought, okay, sir, whatever, right? So we get down to Fort Lewis, and he must have told Strickland about it, what was going on about me looking like Buzz Lightyear. So we got this break, and we got to go to Tony Roma's for ribs. Right now, I'd never been to a Tony Roma's. So like, hey, you got to go here. Okay. So we all go over there. We're sitting at the bar eating. And if you ever met Tom Strickland, now he's funny. He's a smooth talker, right? And I'm sitting up there, the three of us, and he calls the bartender over and he says, hey, man, did you know you got celebrities at your bar? So I'm like, really, man? I'm trying to look around and see where's that. And so she like, no, really? Who do you guys? Says, hey, man, you got Buzz Lightyear sitting at your bar. And I'm like, oh, man, So, and that was it. I come back from that trip and Dan Dusselblond or somebody had put a Buzz Lightyear figure on my desk. So I kind of roll with that one too. So anyway, there's my 2 stories, man.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So I still got got some friends in Fayetteville. Their daughters still know me as Buzz. If you said it's Joe, they were like, who? Buzz. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so just for everybody, as we close this thing out, tell me what you're doing now. How's things going? How's life? Where's happened? I know I see Riley is around in pictures. Yep. So tell me more.
So we moved back to Tennessee about, going on 8 years now. I moved back here in 2013. And, it's funny. I swore I'd never come back here. You know what I mean? But now that I'm back, I'm glad. I wouldn't move anywhere else now. You know what I mean? So came back here, been back about 8 years. Riley is 12 going on 30. My older daughter, Jocelyn, is 21, getting ready to finish up a nursing degree. And she's got a voice. I don't know if some folks have seen her, Jocelyn Elena. But man, she's got some pipes, man. She's got an incredible voice.
Wow.
Yeah. She tried out for The Voice once. And she made it, like the initial cut, said he gave her a gold card to come back. But she's got a very operatic, is that the right word? Like an operatic kind of voice. She does a lot of she loves
what they say about mine.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about you when they said that. Yeah, but she's like a Celine Dion type of singer. So she didn't make that cut. So she's she performs and does some things there in Fayetteville, in El Paso, and then finish up her nursing degree. I started working for the post office about 4 years ago. When I retired, I went to work doing government contractor and military contracting. And that was good until I moved back here, and then I had to move on. So I sold insurance for a while. That wasn't so sharp, man. And then went back to school and then started working for the post office. So I've been doing that for about 4 years, and loving life, man. I got to play some drums in a rock and roll band here again for a while. I did that while I was in Louisiana, and then about 2015. Was just kind of going through some rough times, and a friend of mine who I played music with before I came in the Army, we played in a gospel band together. He called me and asked if I would sit in at his church one day. He says, the rest of the band is on vacation, so I want to get somebody, if they would, you would sit in on drums and other guys sit in with the bass. I said, yeah, sure, and he said, well, come out on Wednesday night. And we do like a covered dish, and then they do Bible study, and then we'll go over to the sanctuary and practice. Okay. It was the first time I've ever been to a church and felt, well, I won't say the first time, but I guess the first time in my adult life when I guess it was the right time, but it was the first church I've really felt like the Holy Spirit. And so anyway, I've been going there ever since, play the drums, with my church, which is, rock and roll and playing in the bars was fun, but there's nothing better, than playing a church service and knowing that what you're doing is bringing a blessing to somebody, and glorifying God, man. So, of the things I've done lately, that's probably the thing that I'm proudest of, and really got a lot of work. I got a friend of mine says I'm not a holy roller, but I'm working on it. And so,
Amen. I love it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing that, I'm working on the most is I grew up in a very devout family. My mother and father were very involved in church. They gave us a very strong, foundation of the Lord and of God, and we, all of my siblings and I were all at some point in our lives have been saved, and my siblings were much better at staying devout than I was, and so now I'm working on I won't say rebuilding, because I don't think you ever, but strengthening my relationship with God, and making sure that my daughter, Riley, both of them, but obviously I got much more of an influence on Riley, but making sure that she has that same foundation that I had. So, when things go crazy for her, or hopefully they won't go as crazy as her dad did, but if that does happen, that she knows in the back of her mind and in her heart that there's a light at the end of that tunnel, and so, and I tell you another story really got me on that. I know we're going, but one of the things that I'll never forget, and I've in my time going to this church, and since I've started going to this church and trying to strengthen my relationship, I've seen so many things and felt so many things that were like, I guess you call them miracles or direct responses to individual or community prayer. But one of the things that happened to me that really told me I was at the right place was that first time when I was sitting in, and the guy who was sitting in at base was a guy who had been at that church plenty before. And so he's talking about, because I guess folks hadn't seen him in a little while. And he says, I grew up in similar to what I just got done telling. I grew up in a devout family. We were at church every Sunday. My mother and father did this, that, and the other, similar to what my parents did. And he says, and then I kind of went and was kind of doing my own thing. And I'd go to church once in a while, and I'd have an excuse of why I don't like that church, or, this, that, or the other. And so as he's telling me this, he's saying this to the folks in the congregation, I'm thinking to myself, this guy's like telling my story. It's like his story is mine, as he's talking about why he doesn't go and whatnot. And then he says, and then I get emotional when I think about this, but he says, but then I had my little girl. He says, and I thought for no other reason, I went to her to have the same upbringing, the same foundation that I did. And I tell you, Will, it was like God's finger in my chest. Hey, dude, you ain't done that. And I felt convicted, man. I was like, man, what am I doing? What am I doing? And so, a lot changed that day, and a lot's changed since, thank God, for the better. And like many of us, we struggle daily with fights with the devil and in our past and whatever. But I'm thankful that as I look back on things, man, there are so many times that if you really think about it, man, if it wasn't God there with you, I'd be dead, or I'd be in a jail. I mean, and I don't, we all think immediately common sense. Oh yeah, we all threw ourselves out of a plane. Well, yeah, I got it. That you're right. But how many times were we, this close to an entanglement, or this close to a wreck, or this close to any number of things, whether it be work or off work, that, why ain't I in jail? I mean, some of the things, that I for lack of better, I mean, literally, you think about that stuff, or why, thank God I'm not dead, or I didn't kill somebody in some of the things that we've done, you know what I mean? So, thank God, because guess what? He had a plan for me, and he's got a plan for all of us, as long as we just kind of let him lead instead of trying to take charge. You know what I mean? Which, anyway, what's that?
Was 1,000% right. Exactly right. Thank you so much for sharing. That is brilliant. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Thank you, dude. You look like a friggin' beast, man. Tell me about your program.
Thank you, man. It's the camera. Great. Cameras and lighting. That's it. No, what? I just, the one thing I do, I try to do every day. And just because, as we get older, I was telling somebody the story today. Another matter of fact, I got like 2 guys on my route. They're old 82nd guys. So, when we link up with each other, like, hey, but anyway, I was proud when I retired. I mean, I'm still proud, but you know what I mean? Like proud, like, oh, I'm not hurting, I don't need this. I don't need that. But, as you get older, man, all of a sudden you realize, holy cow, man, what is that ache? What is that pain? Right. And you know what? We see that a lot when the front number changes. Like when that front number goes from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, man, all of a sudden, like, oh, it's like, I've been changing my oil every 3,000 miles. What's going on here? But anyway, I like to get up and try to do like, the old rotation exercises. Remember like the Dirty Dozen we did in the Army, right? Except, like neck rotations and shoulders. And then I try to do some stretching. And some days are better than others based on the weather and arthritis. And then some of the things they gave me at the VA, some therapy stuff, was he told me to go buy a kettlebell and do some like light deadlifts. So I just do that. I still do, like, I do 30 push-ups a day. That's my thing. I still got to do my push-ups, but I don't know. I don't do, I guess I'm lucky that, the post office keeps you moving. You know what I mean? It's not all just sitting in the car, especially with Amazon. So I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's mainly lights lights and camera, and I'm wearing I'm wearing a medium shirt and holding my gut in while I'm talking to. And
Oh, that's great! I love it. I
hey,
love it. I love it. I love it.
I got to tell you, the question you asked, and I apologize. I know we're trying to wrap up, but some of the officers we work for.
Yeah, tell me
I
about it. We
know,
got plenty of time. Plenty of time.
man, Mark Holler. And I know I'm throwing out the three that we all kind of are most familiar with, right? Jeff Underhill, Dwayne Boyer. Dwayne and Martha are Riley's godparents. And we were blessed, and I'm going to kind of reference what Russ said the other day about how it still feels weird calling him Russ or Jeff or Dwayne, man, without calling him like the colonel or sir or the general. And when you're on the phone with him half the time, like I'll call one of them, I'm like, "Hey, Dwayne," and I'm like, it's like it just don't feel right. You know what I mean? But just like I guess from their perspective, like you said, all you really had to do is hang on, man, because we had that, right? I mean, hey, we got it as NCOs.
Oh yeah,
definitely. But I think in many cases, like for me particularly, I mean, how blessed was I? I come into Charlie Battery as a young first sergeant, and Mark Holler is my commander. My platoon sergeants are Frank Robinson, Jim Gray, and I can't remember was Francisco there, and he just left, and Jim Hunter was there. It was either
I think Hunter had just
taken over, right? And then Big Al Lutz was our headquarters guy. You know what I mean? And then the next round up is you, Johnny C, Gerald Schemmel. I mean, man, it was awesome. But it also came from, those guys in that end office, man. Shoot, I grew up, the lieutenants back in the day, man, Lorenzo Mack, Tommy D. King, man, Diamond Dave O'Neill. I mean, those guys were awesome folks coming up, man, at junior levels. And then at senior levels, man, I mean, the list goes on and on, man. We had some, we were blessed in so many ways in our time to work with and be around so many awesome NCOs, awesome officers, awesome paratroopers, man. When you sit back and think about it, I mean, think about the leadership that's come from the folks we've been a part of. Think about like I'm amazed when I look on Facebook and see what some of the troopers that we served with. And of course, when I see them, to me, they'll forever be like young kids, right? Like a private or a specialist. But you got guys like our nuclear doctors, right? Like, man, I can't think of his name. Jules Davis. He's a nuclear doctor. You know what I mean? You got, guys that are contractors. Dave Good is a contracting business, and you see these guys, and one of them, I'm humbled that they would click on the friend button. You know what I mean? Like, man, those guys. I mean, those are my troopers, man. And they're like, hey, this guy sent your friend request. Well, you know what? Click. I'm going back, man, because, like you said, my success came from them. But it's just amazing to see what those guys have done, man. I mean, how awesome did we have it? You know what I mean? I mean, I had to sit back, and I was lucky enough in those times to either be led by awesome people, awesome leaders, and awesome individuals, whether it be, at the front of a formation or just a guy next to me. Hey, man, do this, or hey, watch this, or be careful of that, or, study up for this, to, the guys that were in the formations that we were in front of that were just incredible, man. Just incredible,
we were studs because failure wasn't an option.
Yep.
Right? We weren't going to fail, and we weren't going to let our buddies
Shut it
fail.
down. That's
One
right.
platoon over, if they needed something, we were going to find a way to sneak it over to them, or
That's right.
you know, we might steal something in the middle of the night, but we weren't going to do it so that you failed along with us. You know.
Hey, you might come over to Charlie Battery and see a door that was suddenly stenciled with a B on it, but we don't know how that happened, right? It's
I don't know.
Hey, I can remember. Hey, now here, talk about a 9349 story. I can remember as a young troop doing CIs, right? So in those days, we do the in ranks. All right, go lay out your stuff for your TA-50 inspection. So I guess this was the advantage of your platoon being on the ground floor. So all the guys that lived in the barracks, right, would lay their stuff out on their beds. And the rest of the platoon, the off-post personnel, would lay it out on the grass between the building and the sidewalk. You know what I'm talking about? And the windows would be open. There's a little bit of exchange going between rooms as the guys are coming. I'll never forget that, man. Dude, that was, you look back on that now as a retired CSM, like, damn, that's dirty. But you know what, man? That was hilarious. And I got to be honest with you. I think as a CSM or as a first sergeant, if I'd have caught somebody doing that, I just would have had a laugh, man. I mean, I just would have laughed. Hey, man, you got an A for that for buddy. It's a battalion coin. You know what I'm saying? Almost kind of thing. Like, I remember those days, I mean.
So let's talk about something real quick, okay? Let's hit something head on. This is controversial, okay? Look, we grew up in an era that if you did not cheat on a correspondence course, you did not get promoted. Right?
Uh-huh.
Right, yep. Right. I mean, nobody talks about it. Nobody. But it's really just it's simple, straight up. Either you came in with a 4-year college degree, or you cheated on a correspondence course, or you didn't make staff sergeant.
Yep.
Right. And it was a crazy time.
Confirm or deny, right? Ain't that the right way to say it?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But promotions during our time in the Army were tough at certain times, certain areas. They were tough. They were tough.
Yeah.
And many made it through and many didn't. There were a lot of people that took the money and ran, and that's cool. That's okay.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting time,
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like we talked about earlier, I mean, that stuff then, that at that time in the Army, I won't say it was, I mean, I think probably the right word is it was probably commonplace. I don't know that it was accepted. Maybe it was just kind of ignorance is bliss. You know what I mean? But nowadays, who knows what that would be? You know what I'm saying? And as much as we're, as much as we're, I just got to tell you, I mean, it's a dilemma because I understand, hey, okay, that's wrong, but is it wrong enough to, let's say by today's standards, right? Like something like that now would be, let's say just possibly kill a career. You know what I mean? But was that really worth that? I mean, how many great leaders, if you really got them off in a corner by themselves, that were hugely influential and extremely successful, if you really asked them that thing, would be, yeah, I cheated on a correspondence course. And that maybe like today, you'd be like, there's a great leader who's out the window now because cheated on a correspondence course. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, now I guess we're making more of a mountain out of a molehill, but I guess
totally.
But whatever. So I I can neither confirm or deny that we ever did that kind of stuff. But you're right. If we had a friend or a friend, you know, if a friend decided he was going to do that, how would we feel about that? Right? That's it.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. By the way, I switched to whiskey.
Oh, hell. Uh-oh.
Oh, it's Friday night around here.
There you go. I got to work in the morning, man. So, you know, yeah.
So tell me a closing story, man. Tell me something, you know, tell me something inspiring about your time in service so that we can close with.
Man, I don't know. I think I shot my wad with that other thing about how much of an honor it was. And I don't mean to say that to sound like that was just some sort of a cheap line, but you know what I mean.
I totally get it. I totally get it.
You know, I am. I don't know if I have a real like a holy cow story. You know what I mean? Of course, now once we hang up, I'll have 1,000 of them that'll pop into my mind. You know, just the way it goes. I guess just, you know, like I said, summing it all up, man. You know, to look back and think of some of the decisions I made, and kind of the plans that were put in motion that at the time you never even think of, you know what I mean? Like moving down here, you know, like moving to Tennessee. You know, I did a lot of thinking when we talked about that we were going to do this. And I'm thinking, you know, if I had stayed in New Jersey, would I have even thought about joining the military? I don't know. Because like I said, at that point, you're freshman or sophomore, you're not really worried about that kind of stuff. But you know, just to see the things that have happened in the things that we've been able to do and the friends and family and connections that we've made, man, has just been, you know, it's mind boggling, man. And, you know, it's a shame that people have to miss it. You know what I mean? Like you always wonder, like when we join the army, you join the military, think, oh my God, what am I thinking? You know, is this really, you know, it's a scary move, right? I mean, like scarier than buying a house, you know, scarier than buying a car, you know, you're like, man, you know, this is life changing. And then, oh, by the way, you know, now in today's day and times, we talked before, you know, now not so much as 10 years ago, but you know, you're joining, you know, you're going to war, you know. But if people would kind of listen to the advice or stories of those of us that have been there and understand, man, the bonds and friendships and you know, really family that you will get by making that decision, by taking that leap, man, I think if everybody knew that, there would be no problem with recruitment. You know what I mean? I mean, how many of us sitting here now, I mean, you know, we could all go back and look at this story, look at Russ's story, look at Joe Benson's story that you've done, and everybody would sit there and think, man, you know, what great times, what great friends, what relationships that we still have, right? Hey, somebody calls me tonight at 10 o'clock, says, hey, I'm going to be in Nashville. Guess what? You know, I got about an hour, man, because I got to work tomorrow, but I'm gone. You know what I mean? And you know, I just think that maybe that's what the recruiters ought to look at. That's what they ought to show people. You know what I mean? Because God, yeah, you can't beat it, man. You can't beat it. The military family we have, you know, the bond we make. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what's on the top of my head, you know? So
I love it. Well, let me tell you something, Joe Stout, you are a dear leader to me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. How many airborne operations did we go on together? How many nights did we talk on the radio at JRTC together? You know, how many reports?
When the net got hard on the night of the defense, right? Hey,
yeah.
Hey, Hotel 6 would get on there to get some entertainment, wouldn't he? I'm
So,
sorry, I
you
didn't mean to
know,
interrupt you, man, but that just popped in. That was funny. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
No. So, I mean, I don't want it to end. If you got more
No,
stories, talk about it. I want to
no.
hear it, man.
Well, I'll tell
Really.
you what, here's some stories quick. Because you know, everybody, we always got our chops busted. Me and Bassett, Henson. Remember Henson? And Charlie about the size of our heads. You remember that? And I'll never forget, man. We were at JRTC and me and Bassett, and I forget who else rolled up there, man. At the what was it hilltop, man, when you're coming in on the north end of Geronimo. Remember that? The little sandy hill up there? Was it Sandy Hill we called it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were all up there on there doing something. Maybe it was T-Bone, a couple others, but Delaney come across the net, man, talking about, hey, man, look at Sandy. You got these 4 guys up there. It looks like Mount Rushmore. You remember that? That was another fun place, JRTC, dude. That was a good.
Oh, yeah.
God, that was a great assignment. I learned so
Oh,
much,
yeah.
man. You know, shoot, yeah, that was a lot of fun, man.
I had a blast at JRTC.
Yeah.
I did not have a bad assignment. My career, I did not have a bad assignment. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yep. When you know, when I left the battalion, I went to Fort Carson, right? And Steve Rogers still tells me, I didn't know you were moving, because I told him, I said, I don't want to go back to Bliss. And he said, all right. So he got this position at Fort Carson. I went and, got in there. And, oh, by the way, my brigade commander there, Frank Sherman, one of the only armor officers, master rated with a mustard stain, jumped into Grenada. Or no, Panama. Yeah. So anyway, I'm there like 2 months, and they move us down to Fort Bliss, dude, to McGregor. Oh man, that did not go well with household 6 at the time. Yeah, but anyway, it worked out great, because I mean, it was at Fort Bliss, man. I mean, it sucked with the family because you're separated. Of course, I wasn't the only one. There was a bunch of us that were separated like that. So, it didn't go over well with a lot of us. But I kind of was able to kind of finish where I started. I'm out there, and all of our ranges are on McGregor Range. Where we went out there and got smoked as privates, man. It was a lot of fun, man, and I learned a lot. You learn a lot of stuff there, man, because really your first, I guess really truly, my first real assignment away from any sort of airborne soldiers. I mean, Fort Bragg, JRTC, even Alaska. I had a section. We had an airborne battalion down at Rich. The MPs across the hall were all airborne guys, which they didn't like it because they had like 35 guys all on status and 2 jump masters. I had 12 guys and 6 jump masters. So who's kicking their asses out of the plane all the time, don't you? You know the deal. They love us. But anyway, it was kind of fun, man. It was a cool time to do that too, man, to go back and kind of, at the end of a career, you obviously you get like more reflective, right? Like you do with like anybody would at the end of their career. And so it was kind of neat that, the end of my career, as I'm rolling out on these ranges, I'm reminiscing, I'm telling these guys stories. Hey, you see that? I did my NBC training in that place. And I remember low crawling from here to there. It was kind of weird. Like I said, it was just my whole career, man, was such a blessing, just the way things worked out. It was just incredible. I mean, to me, it's kind of comical, man. The Army had that much of a sense of humor to promote me to sergeant major. And then, I got to be a brigade sergeant major, man. I mean, wow, and run the battalion I grew up with. Man, it was fun. It was incredible,
So, hey, Joe, it was a blessing to talk to you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me on a Friday night. I'm going to take this, edit it up a little bit, post it on the internet, and I promise that you are well loved and this will be well received. And I salute you. Thank you.
Hey, brother, I love you, man. Thank you.
I love you too, man.